Yeah, a lot of plugin companies seem to be jumping on the cassette tape lo-fi bandwagon, which is fine by me. I quite like that bandwagon. I've been on it for a while, ever since I started recording on my Tascam Porter Studio back in the day. And basically, all these different tape plugins are trying to do different versions of the same thing in different ways and for different reasons. So I've got this effect rack here called Tapes, and I'm just going to give you a quick blast of this track that I've been making. One of the things that triggered me doing this video was the fact that UAD have just given away a really interesting version of a new tape plugin, and they've called it Verve, which I just loaded up. Verve Analog Machines. And this is the free version. Basically, you have 4 different tape modeling. All you've got, the only control you've got is drive, and then you can select which machine you do. So that's the first in my chain. Yeah, I mean, sweeten, warm, thicken, vintagize. I love that word. I'm going to use vintagize all the time now, I think, my vocab. No mix control, it's just on or off. So that's on. And that's without it. Yeah, nice. It feels like it's doing some EQing, some sweetening, maybe some deharshing a little bit, and then you've got this drive switch. Yeah, I mean, you could use this to extremes, or you could use it subtly. And then you've got warm. That's on. That's off. That's on. So that's actually pretty subtle when you have the drive turned down. Like, listen to the shaker. Hear the shaker, but then when you put this, so I think it's doing a high mid boost as well as other things. That's cool. You've got thicken. Oh right, yeah, that sounds like really. So that's more mid-rangey. Yeah, nice. That's definitely taking some low end away, isn't it? That feels really like a familiar sound, you know? I feel like that I've heard that before. Oh yeah, I can definitely hear that being used on vocals, maybe like automating on and off. It's not quite the telephone vocal sound, is it? But it's that kind of, yeah, it's that kind of like mid-range thing where it's taken away the low end. Nice. And then finally we've got vintagize. Oh yeah, it's totally destroying it. Now I'm imagining the input is going to affect this. If I turn the gain down, I've got a utility plugin just before this, so if I drop the gain, if you look at the image, you can see a meter on the top there for when it's like clipping. See there? So if I drop the gain, crack the drive up. Nice. Yeah, so it's responding to what it's given. Cool. Well, I recommend grabbing that. Get it for free until I think April. So you've got another couple of weeks. Get that for free. I mean, why not? UAD make great stuff, right? Next up, I've had this for a long time. This one. This is something that came out a while ago. Tape Mellow-fi and Arturia. Just doing one thing. As you can see, it's got very much the magnetic tape. You can see the tape head there. It's got a preamp section, the tape section, and then you've got the output section. Got a drive. Just turn the drive off for starters. So that's on. Let's bypass. It feels like there's a bit of compression going on. Can't quite tell. If you just listen to the overall thing, feels a bit. This word glue, you know, feels like a bit more glued together. Bypass. I like what that's doing. And then, you know, you've got the drive. Introduce the tone. Not a lot of these tape plugins have tone control. I think it's nice to have a tone control. You know, maybe you've got like a 2-bar section in a transition, you know, between a verse and a chorus, or maybe you have a bridge or a bit where you want to have a different treatment, say on the drums or whatever. You could click this on, you know, just have a nice, interesting, like, bit of weird like this, like, you know, automate that tone to open the sound up. So it's a nice thing to have. Let's turn that off for now. And you've got the noise. Yeah, so you hear that if you want that in there. And then mechanics. So if you have the noise on the mechanics. Yeah, brightness. Flutter and wow, these are going to be quite common things you see in tape plugins, because this the instability of the mechanism and the tape age and stuff just starts to introduce like wobbles. Wow is the one where it goes wow, and flutter is, you know, a flutter. So you can have both. So yeah, I think it's really very realistic. And tape stop. Here we go. Love that. And finally, you know, on the output section, filter. So you could combine all these different things. So the drive, the flutter and wow, the mechanical noise, and the filter on the output stage. You can really make it feel like it's just completely like... Yeah, anyway, that's Tape Mellow 5. Got loads of loads of presets, but, you know, nice selection of presets. Get this, have a little play. It's a good one though. I do think it's good. It does what it does well. Cassette by Waves Factory. You can actually see the cassette going around. You know, you can change it from home to micro, from pro. 3 settings: pro, home, and micro. And then I've got it set to Tascam. I love my old Tascam. I still use it sometimes. This is set to sort of model that, but it's got an input and output, which some of them don't have. So you can really just say, like, you know, the more you drive the input of a tape, the more you get this horrible breaking up sound. And you can drive the output, and it's not just a volume knob. It's going to be, if you listen to that output, you know, it's introducing the preamp noise and all of that noise you'd get with an old tape. The presets are amazing, and you can go into this advanced tab, and you've got loads of different parameters. Too many to go through now. You know, you can really control wow, flutter, stability. Because it's got mix, you've got this mix slider. So obviously it's blending the tape signal with the non-tape signal, so you can get this, you get the modulations. Maybe you set it really extreme wobble, and then you have it just blended, so you get like a chorus effect. Pretty cool. So yeah, cassette. I mean, if I look at the presets, I'm going to go for a couple. You've got one called Chorusy. I bet that's using the mix. Yeah, you see that's the mix. 50%. That'll be great just on a synth bus or something, or guitars. Chorusy. I like the one that's called Old Synth or Movement. These are good ones. So I'm going to get my synth group, and I'm going to add cassette to that. So let's go for Old Synth. And I'm putting on. Wow, that is a lot of noise. You can turn the static down. The stability knob, obviously, we've got it right down to 0, so it's really unstable. And spread is a great control to have. That's just the synths going through the tape now. love that plugin. Very inspiring. If just another quick one on tape, if I load it onto the drum bus, just show you quickly some of the like more extreme settings for drums. Lo-fi drums. Love that. Really Jack Antonoff vibe, you know. Very cool. Maybe even have that mixed in just a little bit. That's great. All sorts of really great effects. Industrial crush. Home acid. You know, the maximum mix. It's just blended. Little things like that can really be the difference between a sort of dull, uninspiring production and something that's just living a little bit more. You know, the whole idea of tape, really, one of the ideas in tape is that it's moving, it's a real thing, it's got mechanisms, it's got hardware and preamps and all that kind of stuff, and it going to go wrong, and that's what makes it so endearing. We use the word character, you know, you feel like character comes from those kind of things. You can't just... Perfection is the opposite, really. I think perfection lacks character, and you don't use a tape plugin if you want things to be perfect. Right, okay, have to move on. That's a lot of fun, that one. Next up, we've got Tape by Softube. Softube, I love Softube. They don't pay me any money, but I talk about them in videos like this because they're just making really, really amazing sounding plugins, and they offer quite good promotions. And their tape plugin is very much a studio tape, like a complete simulation and emulation of what it would be like to have a real tape. So you can even see the reels going round. Tape speed. It says like less bass, treble, and you can kind of get a sense of what it's doing. I've got 3 different types of tape color, and then you can dial in the amount of color. Essentially, that is a little bit like the distortion controls. So that's it, that's at maximum. You know, I have this on my master bus pretty much all the time, not always turned on. I just kind of A/B it, and I just test what it's bringing out in my particular mix I'm working on. Excellent extra panel that you've got stability, so you can actually introduce the whole wobble thing. You've just got wobbly and stable, you don't have any more control. And then you've got a really nice EQ. So if you've got a really bright recording, you can scoop off the highs, and vice versa. You know, you can boost the highs. Crosstalk between left and right, and then these input and output. I think it'd be quite nice if they actually automatically gain matched, but you know, you can see the red. You can really drive that input. And then bring down the output. And then it's got stop and run. I'm loading it up on loads of different instrument tracks and master bus now, just hearing like how you can't even really put your finger on what it's doing. It just suddenly feels more like a record and feels a bit more alive sounding. The free version the Softube put out, called Dirty Tape, has aspects of their full price tape plugin that we just looked at. It's just one control for drive, one control for clean, bad, in terms of the quality of the tape. If you put it to bad and you've got it decoupled stereo left and right with this switch, then you can really get that width. Very extreme. So have it somewhere in the middle maybe. Crack the dirt up. Another example of this that I've got going on the bass, to have the Dirty Tape plugin blending. So set the bass normal. Without the Dirty Tape, it's like this. Bring it in. And the movement of that wobble gives my bass a little bit more dimension, a bit of a chorus thing. It's slightly wide. And I wanted the bass to just pop out a little bit more and be wider, but without putting a chorus on it or being too sort of, there's the chorus. This has got movement to it. Now, N4 by Acoustica Audio. This is a suite of plugins. In the browser, you've got a whole section of tape here, so it's not the best interface. These are just the controls. Then you've got Strudel, which is clearly a Studer tape machine. They're not particularly, the descriptions aren't great, but if you listen, it's doing a bit more what, like this high-end category is doing a bit more like what the soft tube one is doing. But at the same time, you've got dusty old tape here. There you go. That's more extreme. I imagine that people who really know their tape machines and are a bit more studio geekery will probably know more about the specifics of these machines. I don't have that experience, but I just like scrolling through and seeing what happens to the sound. That's a really nice one. That's called Sunny Weather. So that's really added quite a lot of life to the track, you know, presence. This is without it. Yeah, to me that's really authentic. Next up, the Origin, which is the one that I just installed today, and it's by Cymatics and it's free. Let's have a listen. It's got one big knob which looks like a filter. Yep, it's a filter. It's a nice filter. This is doing all the things that tapes does: movement, saturation. This whole plugin is not just about tape, it's about vinyl, it's about lo-fiing your recordings. Origin vintage plugin. It's cool. It's really cool actually. This right now, I'm using the vinyl, I'm going to turn the noise down, but the chorus, filter and the saturation. But if I actually, that's pretty extreme, but if I blend it with the clean signal, so that's without, if I blend it in, that could just come in, you could just blend it in for one little section to create a moment and create some depth to a track. I'm gonna have a lot more playing around with that. It's got a lot of controls. Have they given presets? Yeah. Oh yeah, there's tons of presets. I love a preset, so you know, heavy saturation, handheld recorder. What's that one like? Yeah, a lot. You know, I like it when the plugin companies put special effect type presets in there, because you might be in the studio and think, oh, I really wish I could make it sound like it was on a little, you know, handheld recorder, and then boom. I mean, I've got a real dictaphone in the corner, but it's actually really, really noisy. So yeah, great plugin, and that's totally free. Go get it. Cymatics Origin. So then the final one, which is in my collection, which is by Goodhertz, Tube Tape. It's called Tube. So yeah, I guess they're going for tube and tape. It's really, really complex, this plugin. I love this company, and they do a lot. Yeah, Goodhertz have a really interesting suite of plugins, really fun, really versatile, and this plugin is very versatile. It's a lot of parameters. Got tube, tape, you've got this like, I like the things like that visual feedback, that font getting slightly fatter as you move it around, and that's a visual representation of what's happening in the sound. And then the tape, same. You can change so there you go, different types of tape. Different types of tube, so classic EL34. You can change the tubes, you can change the bias, the noise. Nice tape noise, I like that. Got this drive, mix knob, very cool. Compression, there you go. This is really an all-in-one like saturation, tube, tape compression, everything. It's really powerful. And the cool thing, right, so this has got actual songs. The presets are historical, different songs. So Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin, Hey Jude. They've loaded up these different EQ curves and settings. And when you click on them, like King Tubby, see, for example, King Tubby Reggae Producer, it's got a really big bass boost and it's got a roll off at the top. Obviously, it's just imparting that sonic character. It's not really going to sound like King Tubby. If you're just, maybe you're stuck in a rut, maybe your creativity is a bit laxing, or you're just lacking inspiration, loading up a plugin like this and just scrolling through, it shows you how your music could sound in these different situations. It might just make it, oh, that's what I was looking for. I wasn't thinking of doing that. I was thinking, sometimes when you're mixing, you can really focus on the low end or high end or the mid range and get obsessed by that. You can kind of lose perspective. I'm a victim of that, but I end up referencing a lot. And in a way, you've got this inbuilt referencing ability. So if someone says, oh, I like how that Strokes album sounds, you can load up the Strokes thing and it's going to put you in that world, and it might really make you start moving on with decisions about the mix that fit that material, because you don't want every song to have the same mix, because it's not going to be right. An R&B song doesn't need to be mixed the same way as a punk song. Point is, they've kind of tapping into that inspiration, their own one. Wolfpack are very connected to this plugin company. Just that, like, it's just a great sound, and I wonder whether what that would be like just on the drum bus, for example. So I'm going to load up that plugin just for the drum bus. It's all my drums. Let's go for the Wolfpack. Yeah, I mean, that's without. It's pretty cool. I mean, I was happy with these drum sounds already, but what that's done to the kick. So yeah, you're working on a track. You're like, oh, I like everything's sounding good, but it's just not alive, and it's just maybe a bit flat, and you haven't quite got there, and you're mixing things. All well and good, but in some situations, just whacking on a plugin like this and going, it's like going, I now prefer that sound, let's move on to something else, rather than obsessing over like, what's happening, what's going on. Just listen to it and go, do I think it's better? Yep. All right, cool, it's better, let's move on. Anyway, yeah, so that's a very quick look at Toop by Goodhertz, but really there's so many parameters and the presets, it's just impossible to cover it really. I hope this has been informative and useful. It can be quite confusing with so many tape plugins out there. Do you just want to get one, or do you want to get loads of them? I think probably it's a good idea to own one good quality one that makes your music sound like it's going through a proper studio analog tape machine, like the Softube one. Maybe that, and maybe one special effects one like Toop, or like Cassette by Waves Factory, that does a lot more things. But at the same time, if you're low on cash, get this Origin by Cymatics. Seems like a no-brainer. All right, cool. Over and out. That's the end of the vid.